Oh dear God, had to rush back from the gym, had to get this going as fast as possible. There are so many things to discuss. I mean, I am very surprised by a few key details of this Kadarius Toney trade here, how this is going to impact the Kansas City Chiefs offense. I mean, we have to talk about it from the perspective of the New York Giants just a bit, what this means for someone like Wan'Dale Robinson. But the main thing I'm surprised about, the main thing that we need to discuss, where y'all know I'm saying that if you're looking at someone like James Robinson getting traded to the Jets, don't overreact. I mean, hell, he gets traded for a 6th-round pick. Kind of tells us everything we need to know. Well, Kadarius Toney gets traded for a 3rd and a 5th. I believe that's the official details. Doesn't really matter if it's a 3rd and a 6th. The fact that it's a 3rd-round pick is a pretty big deal here. Because if you are looking at how the NFL values these draft picks, 9 times out of 10, if a player fails year 1, if a player is kind of being given up by their own team during their rookie contract, that tells us, okay, he's not the guy. He's not someone we need to worry about. He gets shipped off for a 6th. He gets shipped off for a 7th. They just want him off the team. They want him out of the locker room. But the fact that the Giants were actually able to get something, and going back and looking at what we saw with Kadarius Toney, his rookie season, that is big news. We'll dive into what this means, what the fantasy football implications should be. But before we get into it, please go down there, drop a like on this live stream / video. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. Leave a comment down there in the comment section if you have any questions, if you want to tell me your opinion on exactly what this move means, because I also want to look at how good Kadarius Toney was from a per snap standpoint. A per snap standpoint coming into this season. His rookie year was actually much better than a lot of people would assume, and the data is going to be a little bit skewed here if you're looking at a per game, because hell, Kadarius Toney hasn't been able to stay healthy. He was going and playing games, leaving halfway through. He was getting kicked out of games for going out there and punching people. So the per game numbers, if you look at Kadarius Toney from his rookie season, going to be very deceiving. You honestly can't even do it when he's playing half the game 99% of the time. So we're going to have to boil this down to a per snap basis, a per route run basis. As I pull up our draft guide here to get the important information on Kadarius Toney, let me stall and let you know that if you want to check out any of these player props, if you want to go hit the under on Leonard Fournette for tonight on Thursday night, you can find all these player props plus getting a draft with us on the live stream on Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, you can find the link in the live chat, the description of this live stream, or in the comment section afterwards. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's free to check out. So go deposit $10, have some fun. I like the less than 86.5 total yards on Leonard Fournette for tonight. But pulling this up with Kadarius Toney, what I want to look at is the yards per route run. Yards per route run is going to be a crucial metric here for Toney because, as we've discussed, this was a player that was missing out on halves of games. So you can't look at per game numbers from Kadarius Toney his rookie season. If we're looking at yards per route run, here are the wide receivers that were better than Kadarius Toney last season. Keep in mind, Kadarius Toney is a rookie. Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, Antonio Brown, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Tyler Lockett, T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb. Now, those wide receivers are pretty damn good. Go take any one of those wide receivers, put them on the Kansas City Chiefs, and just like that, they're a wide receiver 1. Now, obviously, I can't sit here and say that Kadarius Toney is going to be a wide receiver 1. That's a small sample. I mean, if you're going to extrapolate that out, very difficult to do. But with the limited sample that we have on Toney, with him looking like that dynamic player, with him being an elite level athlete, with, in my opinion, the most important part of this deal, the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs were able to give up, were willing to give up a significant amount to get him. They give up a 3rd round pick and a day 3 pick. They give up a day 2 and day 3 draft picks. That's a very, very big deal. So I think with Kadarius Toney, please, for the love of God, go out there and roster him. And y'all know, if you watch our Dynasty Fantasy Football channel, I mean, if you don't play Dynasty, you need to get on it. We actually had Kadarius Toney as that buy low player in Dynasty because you could get him for a 3rd round pick. And I thought that the talent profile made a lot of sense. He was going to be way better than any player you could draft in the 3rd round of a rookie draft. And it was clear that this coaching staff didn't like him. I mean, if you watch that Dynasty video, if you listen to anything we've said with Kadarius Toney, whether or not we're picking up Wan'Dale Robinson on the waiver wire and redraft, what was our statement with Kadarius Toney? Well, hell, this is a player that had trade rumors circulating him in the offseason whenever this coaching staff just got here. This is a wide receiver that didn't really have a hamstring injury, and based on the usage that we had back in week 1, based on the reports we were getting all this season, it's not that it was a hamstring injury. It was my coaches hate me injury. I mean, there's a massive difference between those two things. So this coaching staff never liked Toney. The limited action he saw week 1, he did look very dynamic. Now, realistic expectations. Do I think Toney comes in and is a wide receiver 1 just because he gets to play with Patrick Mahomes? No, obviously not. I'd have to be a madman. You'd have to unsubscribe to the channel if I said that. Do I think he's a top 24 wide receiver? Do I think he's a wide receiver? Probably not. I mean, if you look at how many good wide receivers there are in fantasy football right now, I mean, comparing him to someone like Tyler Lockett would be very difficult to come out here and say that Kadarius Toney can put up that type of production. I don't think he's a locked and loaded top 24 wide receiver. But do I think that he projects to be a wide receiver 3 that at the same time has upside for more? Yes. Because we've seen that this Kansas City Chiefs offense is using Marquez Valdes-Scantling as that prototypical field stretching wide receiver. I mean, right now, based on what they just did with this trade, based on the usage we had earlier this season, looks like they're just out on Sky Moore. Looks like Sky Moore, at least he's not going to be anything for this season. Juju Smith-Schuster only has 1 year left in his contract. If you look at Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he signed a great deal, but it is front-loaded with guaranteed money. You don't know how long Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to be in New York either. So maybe Sky Moore, from a dynasty fantasy football perspective, is still someone you want for 2023, 2024, based on how this wide receiver room is going to turn over very quickly. But, I mean, when you're attached to Patrick Mahomes and one of the most dynamic offenses in the NFL, where they aren't in love with any of their receivers, where Juju Smith-Schuster, who doesn't even look that good, can pop off with 2 massive weeks over the past 2 weeks, just given the fact that, hell, he's attached to Patrick Mahomes. There's going to be a lot of passing volume in this offense. Toney is an exciting player, to say the least. Move Juju Smith-Schuster down a bit. Drop Marquez Valdes-Scantling if you're in a shallow redraft format. Drop Sky Moore. You should have done it a while ago if you are in that shallow redraft format. From a dynasty perspective, Sky Moore still has some long-term upside, so don't panic too much on that. From a dynasty perspective, y'all know, like we said, I mean, hell, we were buying low on Kadarius Toney a few weeks back. I think he is a very exciting guy. And on the money in the live chat says Chiefs gave away too much to get him. This is a big thing. This is what I want to focus in on. It's not the New York Jets situation when they give up a 6th-round pick for James Robinson. I understand running backs are significantly less valuable than wide receivers, 100%. But you give up that 6th-round pick to go get someone, I'm kind of going to overlook it. I'm not going to act like it's that big of a deal. You give up that you give up that day 3 pick and a day 3 pick and a day 2 pick. That is a very big deal. But real quick, side note, we are 1 like away from hitting 100 likes on this live stream. Please go down there and drop a like on the stream. It does help us out a ton. Now, if we're looking at what this means for the New York Giants, I think that Wan'Dale Robinson, as we've been discussing over the past few weeks on those waiver wire videos, is 100% someone that you need on your roster. Can I sit here and act like this is some massive impact for Wan'Dale Robinson? No, because we already talked about this. This coaching staff in New York hated Kadarius Toney. Toney wasn't going to be playing regardless. So Wan'Dale, you're still excited. Maybe you're a little bit less worried about Toney coming back later in the year, but it's not like this makes a massive difference. Toney, I mean, fell out of favor with this coaching staff the second they stepped in the building. I don't know what they saw in film. I don't know if they just saw the fact that Kadarius Toney's a wild card. He may be punching players out there during the game. I don't know if they don't like Toney for that reason. Whatever the reason is, Wan'Dale doesn't get a massive bump up. Now, one thing that I want to look at is Odell Beckham Jr. I know a lot of people were rostering Odell, hoping that he came back. I mean, if you've been out in a live stream, which you all know we live stream every single day, I mean, if you had Odell Beckham Jr. on your roster, we've been saying, hey, I drop Odell, not coming back till mid-December. I know a lot of people want him to go over to the Kansas City Chiefs, but that's no guarantee. I mean, He can't be on your IR. I think this is just the nail in the coffin. Please drop Odell Beckham Jr. if you're playing in a shallow redraft format. I don't think he's worth the raw spot considering the fact that you can't put him on the IR. Now, I think it's very unlikely that he is going to be a Kansas City Chief. But for the Chiefs offense, I do think that Patrick Mahomes maybe gets a slight bump up. And I know it's crazy to say, but with Toney, he has the speed. He is an additional dynamic weapon in this Kansas City Chiefs offense. Or, I mean, if you just add another weapon, you have a quarterback with a big arm. I would say Kadarius Toney is just Mecole Hardman on steroids. Kadarius Toney is just a much, much better version of Mecole Hardman. This should be very exciting. Let me know in the live chat right now, please, what are your realistic expectations with Kadarius Toney? If you have anything to say about the Chiefs offense, any questions regarding Kadarius Toney, let me read those in the live chat. Let me get a feeling on what y'all are saying here. And of course, if you have not done so already, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you want to check out any of these player props, go over to Underdog Fantasy, go sign up with promo code FLOCK with the link in the comment section. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100 with promo code FLOCK. So it's essentially free for you to check out. I'm just trying to find this Leonard Fournette line. I personally tonight like the less than on Leonard Fournette at 86.5 total yards in a tough matchup against Baltimore, with Fournette looking very bad this past week, in my opinion. Okay. Joey says Kadarius Toney or Michael Gallup. I think I'd rather have Toney. Andrew says Kadarius Toney or George Pickens. I mean, I think Pickens is a significantly better player. In Dynasty Fantasy Football, give me George Pickens. But if we're going to be realistic here, do I want a wide receiver that's going to be competing against Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, Marquez Valdes-Scantling with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback? Or do I want someone that's going up against Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool with Kenny Pickett as their quarterback? I'd probably go Kadarius Toney in a shallow redraft format, whereas we go George Pickens in Dynasty because, like I said, I think Pickens is a significantly better player, just in a much worse offense. Okay, Karen says drop Stephon Diggs for Kadarius Toney. Jacoby says, so is Toney going to become a decent flex option? So I want to be realistic here with Kadarius Toney. Please know when you go to pick up Kadarius Toney off your waiver wire, the last thing you could do is just go through and play him their first week back from bye. Like, we're not going to be playing Kadarius Toney in week 9. Kadarius Toney, you're going to have to take a wait and see approach where he will be someone that I think does become that borderline flex play for you, but you're not going to be able to put him in your starting lineup. Very similar to what we've said with these rookies all year. Until a player proves it to you, don't start him. Until Kadarius Toney proves it to you with the Kansas City Chiefs, don't go through and put him in your starting lineup. Trent says Kadarius Toney or Paris Campbell. We're going to go Toney there easily. Kaio says Toney or Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow probably has a higher median projection. Hunter Renfrow has a higher floor. I think Kadarius Toney has a much higher ceiling. Harris says he's the 200th like on the live stream. Thank you so much for being the 200th like on the stream, my friend. Victor says Kadarius Toney or Tyler Boyd. I'd probably go Tyler Boyd. I think Boyd's a better player, and he does have elite level quarterback play as well. Okay. John says Toney or Tyquan Thornton. We're going to go Toney in redraft and dynasty. Lax says, is this a W for Wan'Dale Robinson owners? Yes, not a massive W because Toney was never going to be anything in New York regardless with how this coaching staff just absolutely hated him. But I think that's probably all we had for this live stream. Hopefully this stream was able to help you out. Please go get Toney off your waiver wire immediately. Be realistic with what the expectations should be with Kadarius Toney coming in. I think with Toney, you have to view him as that borderline flex play, but don't start him until he actually proves it to you. Move down Juju Smith-Schuster, drop Mecole Hardman, drop Marquez Valdes-Scantling, drop Sky Moore if you're playing in that shallow redraft format. Big deal. The fact that they gave up a day 2 and day 3 draft pick to get Kadarius Toney here. But thank you again. I truly do appreciate you. Make sure you go down there, drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have anything you want to say, drop it down there in the comment section. And of course, if you want to check out any of these player props, you can find them on Underdog Fantasy with the link in the comment section, the link in the description. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100 with promo code FLOCK. And thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Hope you have a great day. I'll have another video coming out before the Thursday night game today. And then, of course, we'll be live streaming after the game. But thank you. And yeah, hope to see you in tonight's live stream.